Hey guys, welcome back to today's video. And in this new today's video, it's going to be a brand new video, part of this video series on breaking up the two-party duopoly to truly create a more vibrant democracy in the United States that has that we can all dream of living, in which we have so many choices to choose from, where we are no longer afraid to vote our conscience and to vote what we truly believe in. Because I know our current system doesn't promote that. You are more encouraged to vote for the lesser of the two evils because you are afraid that if you vote for an alternative candidate, a candidate outside of the two-party corporate duopoly, then that can help the candidate that you really don't like end up winning the election with just a small plurality of the vote, such as 40 or 30 or 20% of the popular vote. And which completely forces you to strategically vote for the candidate who has the best chance of beating the candidate that you really, 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 really hate. And that type of mindset is why the Democrats and Republicans have long dominated the U.S. politics for decades, actually. And it's why I have evolved my stances, and if you follow me on Twitter, and if you follow me on Twitter and have followed me on this channel for a long time, actually, you'd already know that I am 100% a supporter of ranked choice voting, which allows voters to rank their candidates, with 1 being their first choice, 2 being their second choice, 3 being their third choice, 4 being their fourth choice, and so forth. And it's also why I support things such as expanding the House of Representatives, why I support implementing proportional representation, where a political party's number of votes determines how many seats they get in the legislature. So if you get 40% of the vote, you get 40% of the seats. 30% of the vote, you get 30% of the seats. 20% of the vote, you get 20% of the seats. 10% of the vote, you get 10% of the seats. 5% of the vote, you get 5% of the seats, which ultimately will help create a more representative democracy, because voters can truly vote for the government that they truly want. And that is exactly the system that I think that would help revitalize American democracy. And as well, I have also become a massive supporter in creating a more parliamentary a system in which the House of Representatives elects the President of the United States, where they can truly elect a person who's in charge of governing the nation and imposing one's will on the nation. I know it may not seem perfect, but there is no perfect solution to any problem. It just takes collaboration, it takes deliberation, and it takes all coming together to truly work together to reimagine a more brighter and positive future for America and our state. And that is exactly why I created this channel, and why I created the Breaking Up the Two-Party Duopoly series, why I talk about political issues, part of my political discussion-based series, and also why I created my Fixing American Democracies series, where I share my proposed ideas. And and I allow you in all those videos to express your opinions of whether you agree and disagree with me, because we're not the same. We're a heterogeneous population. We are all different. And it's important for all Americans to embrace a diversity of opinion, because that is how we will become whole, and that is how we will create a more positive and brighter future for all of us, to truly allow us to have the freedom to live a life that we want to live. And that is how we can truly reimagine America for generations to come. So here's my newest video on talking about a independent candidate that is running for U.S. Congress. And his name is Jeramy Olmack. And he is an independent candidate running for the U.S. House of Representatives for Virginia's 8th Congressional District. Virginia's 8th Congressional District, it is comprised in Northern Virginia. It is a very strongly Democratic district, but strongly Democratic district that is comprised in Alexandria, Virginia, and Arlington, Virginia. It's right along the border, near the border of Washington, D.C., and it's currently being represented by Congressman Don Beyer. I'm not sure how long he has been in the U.S. Congress for, but he's been in Congress for quite a while. I think he's been all the way in Congress. Because I know he was in Congress in the year of 2014, and I mostly know Congressman Don Beyer for his sponsoring of the Fair Representation Act and just recently he has just reintroduced the Fair Representation Act, which would require states to set up independent redistricting commissions. It would also require the use of ranked choice voting for U.S. Congress and also for U.S. representatives and for U.S. senatorial elections. He also votes for. He also it would require states with 2 or 5 representatives to set up at-large districts where elections in which those at-large elections would elect multiple representatives. So states like Oklahoma would have all of their 5 representatives would be elected at large through the use of single transferable vote. And also states with 6 or more U.S. representatives will be required to create multi-member districts, which range from either 3 to 5 or maybe 4-member districts. And that's one of his big sponsorings of what he's in some areas is known for, and what I've known him for. He's known for introducing the Fair Representation Act and sponsoring it, which I completely support. But to be honest, I support any form of proportional representation, and it's why I support the Fair Representation Act, because it's one form of proportional representation that will help create a more representative democracy in the United States. And this is the person that Jeramy Olmack is running to unseat to U.S. Congress. So why is he running for U.S. Congress? And his main goal is to repeal the Permanent Apportionment Act of 1929. Jeramy Olmack is an independent candidate for U.S. Representative for Virginia's District 08, who aims to restore our representational democracy to represent the entire population, not just the wealthy. We all feel disenfranchised because we have been for generations. Our representation has been restricted and undermined by the wealthy since the inception of our country. The people in power have only been interested in keeping and exploiting their power. We have seen it time and time again. Most outrageously, when Congress passed the revenge-driven Permanent Apportionment Act of 1929, which put the 435 cap on the House of Representatives. Since then, we have had our voices restricted and twisted. Our democracy cannot suitably support our country with a static branch of government. because it becomes easier to corrupt and control. It's time to end the Second Senate and expand our House of Representatives to 1365 representatives. We must overthrow the duopoly by drowning them out of governments. Sign up to take action and support real, nonpartisan changes to our system. And that's exactly why she is running, to get rid of the 435 cap and to allow the House of Representatives to grow in population. And I completely support this as well. I think the House of Representatives has been capped at 435 for a long time. 435 is not adequate to represent 334 million people of us. The average representative nowadays represents 700,000 representatives. That's a lot of representatives for one person to represent. It's time to grow the House of Representatives in size once more to truly create a more representative democracy. And that will also help other third-party candidates, such as Jeramy Olmack, to allow them to run for U.S. Congress, because running for re-election in a smaller district is less expensive. You don't have to raise a ridiculous amount of money anymore to run, which would reduce the influence of big money. You know what that means? U.S. representatives will be more accountable to their constituents' wants and needs, which means you will once again have the prowess to vote for a government that you want, to vote for a representative who will better represent your community's wants and needs. On top of that, it would also reduce the impact of partisan gerrymandering, because having a bigger house would mean it would be a lot harder for state legislatures to gerrymander, to engage in partisan gerrymandering, because the districts have to be connected, and all those districts have to have equal population as well, which would once again make it a lot harder to gerrymander when it comes to a bigger House of Representatives. And this would once again, as Jeramy Olmack wants to do, it would help restore our representational democracy to represent all of us and not just the top 1%. And that is exactly why she is running for U.S. Congress. So let's learn a little bit more about her and her vision. The campaign's mission: the rich and powerful, they take what they want. It's time to end their reign of terror. And her vision is to and his vision, is to ultimately. In his vision, it says, "We are governed by evil and corrupt groups who would rather sit on mountains of bones than make any changes. Jeramy is aiming to deny them their ability to buy off our elected officials, corrupt our system of governance, or rewrite the rules. He refuses to allow these special interest groups to divide and conquer our democracy. He refuses to allow these special interest groups to divide and conquer our democracy anymore. It's time to reclaim and restore our representative democracy once and for all time. No longer will we be dictated to by tyrannical leaders with God complexes about how we will live our lives. Jeramy is calling on everyone to stand up and vote for the independent candidate so we can finish claiming this hill that our democracy sits on and focus on winning the war of liberty for all. And that's exactly what he wants to do. He doesn't want our system of government being controlled by special interest groups, being controlled by the two-party system that has divided us in red and blue teams, that has made us see each other as good guys and bad guys. But allowing us to see in which he will create a more healthier democracy in which we see ourselves as our fellow Americans. We see ourselves that we are different, but we're also citizens of our country who all want to have a more prosperous, a safer, and securer life. He wants to be a fighter to allow us to have the liberty to pursue a life that we want to live. And how he will achieve this is by working with other members of Congress to propose legislation to repeal the 1929 Permanent Apportionment Act. And that is exactly why he's running for U.S. Congress. So going a little bit further into his top priority, which you already know, is uncapping the House of Representatives. Going a little bit of a backstory here. 100 years ago, our legislative branch passed the revenge-driven Permanent Apportionment Act of 1929, which capped our House of Representatives at 435 members and created a second Senate. It forced our government to become static and corruptible. The two parties in our country have spent time since colluding to consolidate our political system under their rule. It is imperative that as the first act of the new Congress to rectify this mistake and restore our democracy, first and foremost, we must pass a bill that repeals the Permanent Apportionment Act of 1929. This bill will state plainly that the U.S. Congress repeals the Permanent Apportionment Act of 1929 effectively, immediately, and directs Congress to pass a temporary Apportionment Act of 2025 that expands Congress at least proportionally to the population growth since 1929. This disenfranchisement we have faced must be challenged. As an independent, it is my only prerogative. And that's exactly what he wants to do. Work with other members of Congress to introduce a bill that effectively repeals the Permanent Apportionment Act of 1925 to allow the Congress to be at least proportional to population growth. And that's exactly why, and that's his most and only priority, and that is to expand the House of Representatives. And that's exactly why he is running for U.S. Congress. But overall, you guys, what do you think about him as a person? If you live in the Virginia's 8th Congressional District, would you be considered in voting for him to be your next U.S. representative for U.S. Congress in 2024? 2024, the November election is just around the corner. It's going to be here quicker than you know it. And it's time to start thinking about who you're going to vote for, who you're going to vote for U.S. Senate, who you're going to vote for the U.S. House of Representatives, who you're going to vote for to be your next governor, who you're going to vote for your state legislatures, and so forth. all these decisions is something that you're going to have to come to grips with. Who you're going to decide on. Are you going to decide the status quo, or are you going to decide a new generation of leader, such as Jeramy Olmack, that will create a more representative democracy by allowing the lower house to grow in population once more? But if you don't want to, and if you do want to actually get behind him in his congressional campaign, consider joining his campaign for U.S. Congress, and also consider donating to him to help him out with fundraising to allow him to meet his goals to continue to stay in the race. Because like it or not, we can all make a difference. Independent candidates, third-party candidates, they can all make a difference because they allow because they force the major party candidates to recognize them and to address the issues that they bring up that is to them is also most critical. And that is how we can truly create more positive progress. But if you don't want to support him, if you live in Virginia's 8th District, and if you like the work that Don Beyer is doing, consider voting for him and re-electing him in 2024, because it's okay. I don't live in the district. I live in California's 49th district. My representative is Mike Levin. That's your decision to make. I'm not gonna judge who you are gonna vote for. Vote who you most value. What you most value. Vote for your values, vote your conscience, and vote your beliefs. What you truly believe in. Because everyone has their pros and cons. No one is perfect in this world. It just takes all of us to embrace a diversity of opinion, to ultimately become whole, to truly reimagine a more positive future for your states and all of our states for generations to come. But overall, you guys, consider chatting. Don't forget to actually share your opinions in the comment section below. Offer other video ideas that you also want me to make a video on, and also consider following me on Twitter. All those links will be in the description of this in the video below. And don't forget to like and subscribe. And until next time, guys, this is the Young Centrist, and I am out.